Hey everyone, this is Katie Cross coming up with a very exciting update. It's an update that's been in the works for a while, but my team and I have just laid out the final plans, and I'm so excited to bring it to you today. So let's dive right in. Those of you that are listening from my romance, either Facebook group or email list or YouTube playlist or wherever you're coming at to me for my romance, this is going to affect you the most, but in really positive ways. So we've done some restructuring at KCW, and we're kind of changing the way we're approaching the books that you read. So last year we kicked out a ton of romance novels. We slowed down a little bit this year so I could catch up with some things, and we're bringing you the next romance novel, Protect Me, which is Vikram and Kate, probably June or July. Right now it's on the retailers for July, but it's probably looking like I'll be able to get it out sometime around June. That's the first exciting update. I'm over halfway through the second draft. We're closing in on the final third draft. I typically do one more run through and then send it to beta readers. And it's not too long after beta reading and proofing that it comes out. So we're looking at June. That's our first exciting update. But with the change in how I run my company, basically to summarize it, I don't run advertising through Facebook anymore. And when I had advertising for Facebook, I had to have two different websites. I had Katie Cross Romance and Katie Cross Fantasy so that I could successfully run the advertising. Well, we don't have to have two anymore because we're not doing the same ads. So I have started pulling my books over into my fantasy website. So I will show you what it looks like right now so you can kind of see what we're doing to get this whole picture. Right now, if you go to katiecrossbooks.com, you can scroll all the way down past all my fantasy books, and you'll see a link to get to the Kindle Unlimited page for my ebooks. Right now, all of my chick lit and contemporary romance books are in Kindle Unlimited, so I will leave a link in the email and in this YouTube video for you to access them. Below that, you can find all the contemporary romance audiobooks that I have, and then the paperbacks for contemporary romance and chick lit. So on my website, it will be encompassing both chick lit and fantasy now. Since we don't have to toggle two websites, I wanted to bring them all together. A lot of my really avid fantasy readers have been surprised to find that I have more books for them. So I wanted it to be clear. And some of my romance readers, you may not know that I have all of these fantasy books waiting for you to read. So we're bringing them all together to make it a lot easier for you. And that's super exciting. So if you go to katiecrossbooks.com, you can access any of them. If you haven't read my fantasy yet, there at the top of the page, there's a place you can enter your email and you can get my first book for free. You can also get it for free in audiobook. So if you want audiobook, the link is in the email or the comments here on YouTube or in the Facebook groups or wherever you're watching from. So right now, we have no other plans to open another pre-order for romance for the rest of the year. That doesn't mean I'm not going to write in romance anymore. This has kind of been the question of the year. Do I keep writing romance? Do I not? I don't know if I can give up the coffee shop series. For those of you that have read Smoke and Fire, I might go full Jess on this and let's just end up having this 30 book series that you guys can sink into whenever you want. But right now, I'm really emphasizing fantasy in my writing. It's my happy place. It's where I started. It's where I'll end. Fantasy is bringing the most joy into my life, and I'm the most passionate and most excited about fantasy. But writing fantasy books gets pretty epic and pretty busy and pretty big, and magic systems are a lot. So sometimes I like to come into the romance novels. I have like a light, there we go. I like to come into the romance novels because they're so easy and they're so fun, and I can just let the ideas grow in a different way that isn't magic related. So that's why I'm not going to stop publishing in the coffee shop series. For those of you that have been afraid I'm going to do that, the decision is that I'm going to leave it open. But I'm not going to have pre-orders available for those books until I actually know when I'll have a launch date. So instead of setting pre-orders up ahead of time for you to order and wait for, I will just be letting you know in my Facebook group or over email, hey, this new book is coming up in like a month. I hope you're ready for it. They will come out a little more sporadically because I'm doing monthly launches on my fantasy. So if you're wanting new books every single month, you can start reading my fantasy, which are similar to my romance in that they feature strong women. They have romantic relationships. They have magic and wonder and a new world and just people that I think you would really connect to if you come from my romance. So to that end, since we're consolidating websites, we're going to start consolidating Facebook groups as well. My current Romance Rockstars Facebook group, we are going to start inviting people over into my fantasy group. It's titled The Witchery. There are links if you want to join that there. By the 1st of June, we will have closed the Katie Cross Romance Rockstars Facebook group to kind of pull everyone into the same group. Instead of everything separate the way we had to have it, we just want everything to be together. So the groups are really going to emphasize on my books. So if you're following my romance books, we will be doing notifications in the Witchery when new romance books come out. We're going to leave the Katie Cross Facebook page for romance up, but we're only going to post there kind of as it's relevant. So there might be several weeks or a month in between posts on the Facebook page itself, but not a ton of you seem to interact with that anyway. And of course, on my Instagram, it's a mixture of both anyway on Instagram. So those on Instagram aren't going to see very much different. So what you're going to start seeing over the next year or so is a much higher emphasis in fantasy with more romance in the fantasy stories. We might start kicking out a fantasy romance series if that interests you. And so you're going to see a lot more steady publishing on my fantasy series, and then we'll still leave the contemporary romance open, but I just won't be making promises on pre-order dates. So if any of you have questions about this, you know where to find me. It's katie@kcrosswriting.com. You can leave them in the comments. If you want to come over to the Witchery, if you want to start reading my fantasy books, if you want to be part of our world in Alkarra there, then I suggest that you start with the free book Flame that I offer if you haven't already got it. Or you can join the Witchery, or if you want to be on my fantasy newsletter so that you're getting updates on the new releases, just let me know. If you don't even want to be part of this anymore, you're kind of over it, you don't really read the books anymore, I totally get it. Feel free to unsubscribe at any time. Otherwise, we'll be kind of enveloping everyone into the same email list so that you'll get notifications about romance and fantasy emails just to make it really easy for you. Most of you are reading all of my books, and I want to make sure that everyone is getting the updates and notifications that you need. I adore you all. I'm so excited about this. It's going to be so fun to have the whole big family together. We'll all be in one place instead of separate websites, separate Facebook groups. We can all come together with a love of books. If you don't like fantasy, but you really love romance, that's okay too. Come into the Witchery. You can just check when there's updates for romance books. If you really like romance, or you really like fantasy, you're not really into romance, no worries. There, you can just ignore those posts and just ignore the emails that are about romance. So thank you all. You guys are the best. Let me know if you have any questions, and we'll talk soon.